Bajaba, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
How have you been?
I've been good. The sun is just coming out now where I am in Germany, so I'm getting a lot happier.
How has your experience been there?
I think I like it. I'm used to being here now. It's a bit more quieter than Zimbabwe, and the people are a bit more reserved, and they're sticklers for rules. But I'm starting to get into the German culture. So I like it here, to be honest. Yeah.
And for those who haven't been to Germany, how does the German culture looks like?
Okay, Germans stare at you. It's very normal, and it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with like you being you, but it's just part of them, and they really like rules. So you shouldn't walk in the bicycle lane, for example. You shouldn't cross when the crossing light is not on. Things like that. So that's kind of like being German. You shouldn't be loud on your phone in the bus or something like this. So yeah.
So you are a Mastercard Foundation Scholar through their partnership with the African Leadership Academy. How has your experience as a scholar been?
I think, first of all, it's just struggling the culture. So, we get recruited with people from different partners in Africa. And that's kind of like the cohort as a mixture of people from different backgrounds. And just being part of such a global, in terms of Africa, just everybody coming from Africa itself has really been it's quite an insight into how we deal with things differently, how our backgrounds, even if we are in the same continent, just shapes us in different forms and ways. So that really is quite unique about the Mastercard program in partnership with ALA, that you get to first get the idea of how we're different within Africa ourselves, and then before you even get into like the global community. Yeah.
What have you been working on?
I have kind of like different aspects of my life. If you're asking about my academic life, I'm in my final year studying biochemistry and cell biology. So I'm graduating this June. I'm happy to move on to the next chapter of my life, whatever that looks like. However, what I have been consistent about is just social ventures and social entrepreneurship. I'm really big on helping marginalized communities, not necessarily having them being put on the table or being their voice, but actually having them know that they deserve to be heard. They can be their own voice. So I normally, the majority of my work is working in prison, and I work with ex-prisoners and inmates themselves. And what we work on is rehabilitation and employment. So it's helping them transition from prison to society, but also making sure that it doesn't go the other way around, that they do not end up going back into prison. So it's kind of like that's the majority of what I'm doing socially as well.
How has your experience working with prisoners given you a different perspective from other perspectives that other people who haven't worked with them or really interacted with them might have?
It just shows you how fragile freedom can be first. I think this is quite a debatable comment, but it takes a split second for you to be behind bars. And you are one decision away from being behind bars. So it just gives you the huge perspective of what it looks like. That one decision could break your life forever. And also, once you have a criminal record, nobody wants to associate with you, be it employers, be it even family members sometimes. So it just really shows you how one decision could change the whole trajectory of your life. And I know you probably hear this from motivational speakers who are like, one decision could change your life forever. But it's literally right. It's in the negative in this sense that you're just one decision away to be in this person's position. And I think that's a thing that I have learned to embrace in life, that I'm one decision away to be behind bars. It makes your actions and everything you do very intentional.
You have chosen to work with marginalized communities and specifically prisoners. What inspired you to focus on that?
I think I've had some of my family members go through the prison system. And I have gotten to see how even a few days, ranging from 3 to a year, can really have a drastic effect on a person's mental health. And having to see most of my, immediate family or my extended family go through that has made me want to see how it's like inside. I think that innate curiosity to see what really happens here, but also how do we make sure that people don't come out of this place broken? So I think that pushed me. But also, when I took a gap year in Zimbabwe, I was working at an actuarial company, and outside my window was one of the prisons. So I was not only just invested, like inside, but I could see it every single day. I could see them going to the fields every single day. And I think that just made it even more impactful to wanting to just commit my life to this.
We are one mistake away behind bars. That's really profound. What are some of the lessons that you have learned working with prisoners?
I think what I've realized is kind of what the flaws between kind of like the NGO model as well. And like I said, I think I'm going to spread all the unpopular opinions, but I believe these people need more than donations, need more than food packages. They need sustainable things that they can further on carry on and do it on themselves. We can't just keep giving them things. That's one of the things I've learned working with marginalized societies, that it's not enough to go there with a hamper of food, because when it runs out, what are they going to do? Should they wait there and wait for you to bring it back? So I think that's also one thing I've learned working with these marginalized communities, that they actually have the will to be able to provide for themselves. They actually want to be able to be breadwinners. They want to be able to provide for themselves. So I have learned that working with them, that some things are just not enough.
And I suppose you have also had the opportunity to have conversations with some of them.
Absolutely. So I camp in prison 20 days a year when we do one of the prison boot camps. And this is an accelerated rehabilitation program where we offer counseling sessions, soft skills classes, hard skill classes. So we teach them how to make dishwashing liquid, for example. And I've had conversations with them. I've developed very personal bonds with them and understood them beyond their criminal record, understood the circumstances of the crime, understood how their psyche could work. And I understand you cannot understand a person in one sitting in 20 days, but it just gives you a glimpse into their life when they're at their most vulnerable stage. So that's how I've learned most about them.
I mean, I am fascinated by human nature, really. And given the conversations that you have had with them, is there anything that you can say they have in common?
I think what they might face, it's quite, what I've realized, what I face is they all have fear in common, and it comes in all shapes and forms. So, for example, when a crime was committed in self-defense, there was the fear of you being hurt in that situation. When a crime was committed, in terms of like just a social, and when a social environment, they got into a fight, it was the fear of being belittled. I think everything just came from the fear of facing poverty. So I would rather go and steal from someone. And that's what I felt is very common, that once they not only just address the fear, but recognize the fear that led into this situation, could be a pivotal point into their rehabilitation.
I mean, it really has been amazing you having conversations with them, because you're really having conversations with them in their most vulnerable position, as how you had said earlier. And so these are most of the time some of the most intimate conversations you can have with individuals.
Yes, sure.
What are some of the challenges that you have had over the years?
Well, I'm pretty young. I would like to characterize myself. I'm 23. And once I put my age out there, it's linked with inexperience. And then you add that I'm a woman on top of it, who has no training in handling with prisoners. I do take training outside of it. I do attend workshops. I do all the career development that I can grasp on to just be able to pour into these lives. But just the age and the gender itself doesn't take me to the tables that I think if a person with the opposite sex, so a male, or 5 or 6 years older than me would go, even if we're doing the same amount of work. So I'm always judged based on that. That has gotten me to the point where I don't share my age at all. When I'm talking to people, I'm just like, you don't need to know my age. But it's always like that. I always feel like I'm not taken seriously because of other things that are just outside of the work that I'm doing. And of course, I'm open to learning, because the learning curve never stops. But I also feel like our views should be respected regardless of what age or sex we are.
In as much as you have been facing such challenges, I'm pretty sure that the work you've been doing has been quite fulfilling.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I always say you have to have that one thing you wake up in the morning to do. And when I think about that, I'm like, I'm waking up for this. And yeah, so it's quite fulfilling.
And how about your academic life? How's that been for you?
So it's quite mixed emotions. I have tough times in academics, of course, like any other student. There are, the crunched times. But I love it. I just, I'm thinking of just in your undergrad days when you explore what you really like and don't like, and you start to explore the things that you're like, okay, I kind of had a different idea of how this was supposed to be. And so I'm happy that I've managed to also just venture outside of my academic life. So I've taken psychology classes, I've taken neuroscience placements, and I've even decided to go all the way to Mexico to do an internship and just literally push myself outside of my comfort zone to see if I actually like this. And it's been really rewarding to be able to go somewhere and say, okay, I liked this on pen and paper, but I don't see myself doing this. So my undergraduate year has been really just trying to build a foundation on what I like based on experience, other than just based on seeing it from pen and paper or an advert or something.
And it seems like you have also been traveling.
Yes, yes, yes. I do love to travel.
You do love to travel. Yes. How has the experience of traveling been like? What are some of the things that you have picked along the way that you didn't think probably might be possible or they even exist in the first place?
You know what? I want to thank paying homage to my mom. I want to thank my mom who brought me up to say I can eat anything and everything. I can try everything and anything, because I have been to places where I'm like, okay, I don't know if I should be eating this, but everybody's eating it and it's healthy, so I'm going to eat it. But I have traveled within Europe itself, which has been really nice, because being in Germany, you're kind of uniquely placed in a place where you can just travel around easily. And I think the highlight moments when I moved Germany and then I went to Mexico, and it's a real cultural shock when you're moving from Germany to Mexico. But it was like just 3 months. I was dealing with a lot of vibrant colors. It's new because when I'm here, the colors are muted. People don't wear so much bright colors, at least in Bremen where I am. And in Mexico, everything's so colorful. People speak loudly. People are lovely. People hug each other. And I'm like, me and my German self inside, I'm like, can somebody not sit next to me on the train or something like that? And I think traveling has just made me see life in a different lens and understood more people better, because I can see where they grew up and I can experience where they grew up. And therefore I can be like, oh, my friend is very, is very physical, likes to hug people. This is probably what's normal back where they come from. So actually not just knowing and being aware of it, but experiencing it has made me grow in immense ways.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, because you also seem like you're really fascinated by understanding the human nature. And I suppose traveling and meeting people who have different cultures, different traditions should really be an interesting case study for you.
Yes, for sure.
What are some of the skills or values that you have developed along the years that have helped you do what you are doing?
Well, I work on campus, and some of the things I've learned is just dealing with people. And being able to say, I understand you from where you're coming from. We don't have to believe in the same things. We don't have to, just getting to see that, just being manifested from me every single time has been a way that I've grown. I've also just learned to accept people. I don't know how to really phrase it, but just say, some things about people are a core part of them that you can't change it. And it's either you can live with it or you can't, and it's not your choice to tell them to change it so that you can live with it. And just being able to accept people. But one thing I think I've also learned is to stand my ground. I was when I came from Zim, you are told, they're older than you, they're right, you shouldn't. But once I came here, people were like, say it. If you don't agree with it, say it in a way that is constructive, that's not harmful in any way. It's a conversation. You should be able to say, I don't agree with you, and this is why I don't agree with you. And I really got to embrace that skill when I came here, and I can actually say, but I don't agree with you. And it has nothing to do with you as a person, but it's just the idea. I don't agree with it. So yeah, I think that those are kind of 3 ways that I have grown.
That's a really interesting way of putting it, right? I don't disagree with you. I just disagree with your idea, and ideas change. What is your one piece of advice to your fellow young people who might be listening to this?
You're never too young to start anything. And when I started Amaani, which is the NGO that I have, when I started Amaani, I was 21. This was June 2021. I was 21 years old, and I said, Lord, if this fails, then you know what? I'm still 21. I can start all over again. I still have time. And having that mentality to say, I don't have to have a degree. I just need to have the passion and the will and the time and the follow through to do it, that I can do it. You don't have to have a specific age, because I know there's a flip on the internet right now that says, oh, I even started my first job when I was 30. I started my thing when I was 40, so it's never too late for you to start, but I'm saying it's never too early for you to start. You can start at any time.
Bajaba, your story is quite fascinating. It's inspiring and educative, and I hope young people can find it that way too and be inspired by it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.